Ew. I thought I would relay my dreams that I had last night. Um, they were pretty intense. Started off with sort of a diffusion from the dreams that I had um 2 nights ago, where I was like a survivor, and it was in a real tropical place. Um, and there was a conflict I had with one of my old friends named Brady Scow, where I was like, dude, everyone caught it on camera. Like, just wait until everybody sees. And he ended up taking off. One of my old friends, Levon, was in the dream, and it was like really happy to see him and stuff like that. One of my brothers was in the dream, my brother Weston, and he was like making people food because we had just like completed some circuit of like a voyage as we were on Survivor. Well, anyways, those dreams sort of diffused into the dreams that I had last night. And it started off with me being at like my aunts and uncle's house. Their name is Delmer and Charlotte, and like my cousin was there, but she was black. Her name's Emma, and she was like working on a bunch of clothes in one room and stuff like that. She had like some food there. She's like, "Don't let anyone touch my food." I was like, "All right, I'm not going to." I remember looking at the food, and like it was like basically some Chinese food and stuff like that. And my mom was there, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Just looking at it, see what it is." And then, anyways, like I had a space of time where I was by myself, and so I thought I'm gonna go and grab some drinks from the gas station, and I just took their car. I literally went out there. And I was like, "How am I gonna get there?" And it was like the gas station was like 5 miles away. It was a long ways away. You know what I mean? If I was gonna walk or something like that. But the roads were terrible. It was all icy and snowy. And I remember driving and getting to a place where they were doing construction. And they were like, "We're going to have to close down. We can only let a few more cars through. The weather's getting too bad." And there was like a part where it was like I was the car. And they had this little contraption set up. And all of a sudden, I was like basically scaling down a cliff, and I had like ice hooks on my shoes, like spikes and stuff like that. And I was like scaling down this cliff. And then they're like, "You might not be able to make it. The roads," and basically it was a trail at this point of ice. And there was like a cliff and an overhang that I was like driving slash basically me sort of running on. But for whatever reason, I was like, "I got this." And I basically was drifting my car the whole way, like on these icy cliffs at night. And I got to the gas station, but the gas station was much more of like an amusement kind of place. And they didn't really have like a big selection of things. There was like some interesting shops there, but I ended up going to this one shop, and I spoke to the guy there, and I was like, "Dude, what do you have that I can buy?" And he's like, "Okay, we got like these energy drinks that were like NOS energy drinks." And he's like, "We got this one," and it was like a different kind of lemony kind of thing. So I bought those, and then skip past making it back because somehow I just sort of made it back. But then all of a sudden, it was like I was at school. It was like this place all of a sudden became sort of an apartment complex. And my cousin, who was like there, was all of a sudden like a hippo from that show Moon Knight, if you've ever seen that, where it was like they're in Egypt, and like there's like that hippo in the underworld that's like on that ship or whatever. And so I was there, and she was like doing a bunch of things with like sacred geometry and stuff like that. Well, anyways, I like all my stuff was still cold, like didn't spoil or anything like that. I put it in the freezer, and I like had to ask her for some bags. I was like, "Do you have any bags?" Because I like went through all my bags that I had in my room, and was like, I had bags of like herbs and all this other stuff dried up that I couldn't use. I was like, oh, this is like, I can't use that and like um put my food in there, because at this time now it was like one of them was like a creamsicle popsicle, like orange dreamsicle with vanilla ice cream in the middle, but it was an energy drink, and I had to label it like Austin's Energy, has like 300 milligrams of caffeine in it. And then the other ones were like corn dogs, but they were still like ice cream kind of, but they were corn dogs, corn dog ice cream, which sounds kind of cool. Like that sounds like a cool idea, you know what I mean? Like somebody make like a corn dog ice cream with like vanilla cake around it and like chocolate or vanilla ice cream on the inside and shaped like a corn dog on a stick. That's what it was like. There you go. There's $1 million idea for you. And they were energy too. And so I asked that person that was in the other room next to me, I was like, do you have any bags? She gave me a trash bag at first. And then she kind of maybe thought that was kind of ridiculous or whatever. So she then gave me like some actual empty bags that were clean that I could put things in. So I put them in the freezer or whatever. And then I'm like done with that. And so I go back into my room and I'm like cleaning stuff up and organizing. And since I'm at school, I'm like taking OChem again, organic chemistry. And, you know, it was like so weird because all of a sudden, like, I was like picking up, finding all this cool school stuff. Like, there's some certain aesthetic to like school papers and like binders and stuff like that, and all the pencils that you have, like your favorite pencil and everything, you know what I mean, like stuff like that. And I was like I was like, oh, this is so cool, going through it all. And then my professor comes in and he's making fun of the girl next to me because he's like, oh, she's in all the sacred geometry and stuff like that, and he's like, that's not how the world works and everything like that. And he's like making fun of her, and I was just like, yeah, whatever, it's not my business. I don't really care. Like, you guys can do whatever you want, one way or the other. I don't really care. I'm just doing my own thing in here. And so I was like still going through my stuff or whatever. And then my OChem professor comes up and he's like, they're all in my room. And I was like sharing a room with a girl named Casey from my like memories as well. Um, and so he was like looking at this diagram that showed how all of this girl's stuff is like in these sacred geometry patterns. And he was like making fun of it all. And he's like, that's not really how it works. He's like, things have to be in this other specific order based upon like elemental properties and not necessarily just like certain shapes that seem pleasing or whatever. He's like, things follow, you know, these other laws, basically. And it doesn't always look pretty, which is maybe the thing that I'm getting from this, is like, it doesn't always look pretty, you know? And is basically what he was like saying. He's like, the truth doesn't always look pretty, maybe, or something like that. And so anyways, I was like, oh, well, look, I made something too that's like kind of shows what you're saying. I was like, look, it like works and everything like that, but I was like, it's not pretty or whatever. And he's like, so I was like, you can have it. It's like a necklace of all this stuff, all these different stones on it and stuff. And I was like, you can have it. But the feeling of it was like a device that worked, even though it didn't follow like some harmonious pattern or whatever. It still like operated based upon your intention, just like a machine or like a, you know what I mean, something digital or electronic or chemical or whatever. It was like proving what he was saying. And I was like, here you go. I was like, I made this easy. It doesn't have to be as complicated as that. Almost like the sacred geometry was like too complicated and the truth is actually simpler. You know what I mean? Maybe because of all this sort of stuff in the news going on or whatever, and I've like reverted. I told everybody in my family, I was like, I'm not calling people left or right anymore. I'm calling people just hard or soft. You know what I mean? If everybody's too hard, I'm like, you're all just too hard. You know what I mean? Like, you're on the hard end of the spectrum or whatever, and somebody else is over there on the soft, and none of you are soft though. Like, that's for sure. Like, whatever you want to call yourselves beyond that, there's different variations of hard, but you're all just hard. And so then anyways, I gave him this object, and I think it's sort of emblematic of my experience in OChem as well, because I failed one half and passed the other half, and it was like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in action, you know what I mean? This whole idea again of just like geometry, which is all OChem really is like geometry, but there's other parts to it as well where it's runs off of these mechanisms that it's like they're not pretty basically, and so you just have to know them, almost like English, like a language. It's like you're understanding the language, and it's just like they don't necessarily follow a rule, so you have to memorize them and then basically apply their behaviors, kind of thing. Um, and so, anyways, then all of a sudden my teacher starts attacking me, and he starts ripping all my stuff down off the walls. And I was just like, whoa, dude, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And then all the other students in the class come in my room and they start ripping everything off the walls, ripping it all down, destroying my stuff. And then they come and grab me and they start taking me away and beating me up, like punching me, like doing all this stuff. And I'm just like fighting to get away and everything like that. And anyways, they end up taking me outside, like beating me like more and more and more, just like beating me to death basically. And I saw some cameras. I was like, you know what? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the truth is going to be there. No matter how anyone wants to look at it, like, it's there. That everyone is just like, seriously, just like for no reason, just basically started like killing me. And so, I'm sure there's lots of lessons to learn in that. Like, maybe people don't just follow patterns, because ultimately everything in life, this is why Karl Marx was like one of my biggest figures when I was taking my philosophy courses, because people had pictures of him up all over the place. It was like the class war is real, because ultimately all school at some point in time reverts back to is this idea of competition, because what is the truth but your ability to control your environment? Basically, maybe that's the truth, right? And so it's like this idea of like, are people things, or do they follow patterns, or does everything have a soul that you need to get to know and love and accept everything they do, and people don't follow a pattern? It's like, that's like organic chemistry. If you understand, like, chemistry means like basically things being able to get along with each other, and organic means that it's natural. You know what I mean? To an extent, I feel like everything sort of relates, and it's like this play off the idea that at some point in time, it's like the world just results in your ability to basically believe in yourself versus rely on other things to basically tell you what you are. It's like at some point in time, you got to start building your own, you got to save yourself, kind of thing. You can't expect everything to like save you, and maybe there's some insights as to that and the dream and all this other stuff, or value is something that you create, and it's like you don't have to believe in everybody else trying to like tell you what is valuable or not. Just like I was saying in my book reviews of Italo Calvino, where it's like he's talking about the magic of book is ruined when you start seeing beyond how stable the author is. Maybe the author really isn't that stable. And so then you start questioning authority and all these different things. So it's like really all life is a competition for these ideas of value. And at some point in time, even in school, like if you have a good idea, then basically it's in competition with good ideas of even in the system of people that are, you know what I mean? Because these people are professionals at this point. They're not just elementary kind of people that are just like following the program. To some extent, they're actually trying to compete as well. You're in competition with your professor over as to what ideas are basically the best ideas, what ideas are good even, because then it's like the world is a malleable place at some point in time. The magic of the world being something that is out of your control fades and dissipates, and all of a sudden it presents work. And if you can work harder than other people, then basically it's like you can find yourself in a better situation, which is what it's all about anyways. The better ideas you have, the better situations you can find yourself in. So really, what is the best idea? Is it this? That's not necessarily the truth. If the truth is something that is good, basically, like if there is a real plan, if there actually is a pattern, then maybe we should just be learning patterns. And maybe ultimately everything falls into that. And so then you see that whole dilemma of maybe that Beauty and that Beast kind of thing that was going on in my dream. Well, anyways, they all take me outside and they start beating me up, and it's all on. I see the cameras, and I remember them specifically. I looked at them, and they're like very high tech, advanced cameras, and they turned all red when I was like, they recognized my face, and so they were all capturing the scene, and then they took me into the showers, the men's showers. It was a huge. This was like an amazing. Men's locker room. Like this would make like Roman bathhouses and things like that look just pitiful. It was like all tile everywhere, just huge, massive showers, like one of those back rooms that you see in some TikTok video that's AI generated, where people are like wandering through these aquatic scenarios that are just unimaginable, that could never really exist for any extensive purpose, except for somebody just trying to waste as much space as they could, kind of scenes. But it was like very like powerful, just in terms of how massive this tiled room was, that still had all the sense of being enclosed like a bathhouse. For some reason, showers and bathhouses and things like that have this real echoey kind of like enclosured kind of feeling. Well, anyways, everyone's in there beating me up, and like I'm bloody by now. I've got like blood all over me, and I've started fighting back now. It's like, okay, this is no longer like just me being something that this is like a fight for my life. At some point in time, it's like, whether or not what's going on, whether or not you're right or wrong, like if your life is at stake, like you have certain rights. You know what I mean? It wasn't about proving who was right or wrong at that point in time, like, and basically just saying somebody was going to enact justice for me. Like, I had to defend myself. And so I started fighting everyone and fighting back and stuff like that. And basically kind of beat everyone off me. And then I'm all bloody though, just soaked, it's wet in there and stuff like that. Like, I'm naked even. It was like just totally me being completely disrespected and dehumanized and humiliated and everything like that. Hazing, beyond hazing, life threatening and whatever. And Satan actually appeared, but he was like, everyone knew it was like Satan. I like called him Satan, and it was like he looked like Diablo out of like Diablo 3, just like basically just a devil demon kind of monster thing. But then he lasered a few people, like he lasered some people, and like they just evaporated and disintegrated, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And then he came over to me and he put a bucket on my head. He's like, this is how you haze. He shoved a bucket on my head and then threw me into the shower. And then once I got into the shower, my alarm clock went off and I woke up.